It's Movie Time is brought to you by the Gateway Film Center, 1550 North High Street, Columbus, Ohio. For their details and showtimes online at gatewayfilmcenter.org.
The award-winning It's Movie Time is produced by John DeSando. Listen to shows and read reviews online at WCBE.org.
I'm John DeSando.
I'm Hope Madden.
This is It's Movie Time. And Hope, in 1999, a film called The Blair Witch Project came out.
It did.
And now we are discussing Blair Witch, which is the second child of that, right? Right. And so that's just come out last week. Ordinarily, we'd like to be on top of it, but we decided to wait a week to let everybody kind of sit back and look at it and decide. What was the importance of Blair Witch Project?
You know, it had a lot of significance. It came out in 1999, and I think, you know, this far in, it's hard to see it without the baggage of, 20 years of found footage films. But
right.
It really was, and a lot of people will argue that there were other found footage films. There were not. There were other films that used inside a narrative, the conceit of finding footage. This was definitely the first film where the entire thing was allegedly put together from tapes that someone found. And it was also the first real viral campaign for a movie. That was really before that had ever happened. And a lot of what they did with both the campaign and with the found footage conceit came from a movie called Cannibal Holocaust. But Blair Witch is so superior of a film, and they got so much more mileage out of those two things that it became a cultural phenomenon at the time.
I think... I have to indulge you. I'm kind of for a cold.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah, no. For me, the whole concept of the handheld camera, of being unable to see the witch or the ghost, these things disturb me then, and they disturb me now. And films like Cloverfield drive me to distraction because the camera is jumping all over the place. It certainly has the realistic feel, but it, to me, and here's the irony, and I'll tell you why Blair Witch, the current, doesn't thrill me as much as it does you, because I like my information. It's like if I can't hear the actors speaking, I'm fit to be tied. My imagination goes where I think the filmmakers want it to go, dreaming of all these fantasies. But when it comes down to it, I'm still missing out. So how did you feel about the current one?
I liked it. And while I do think, the shaky cam approach is somewhat nauseating, I think...
Darn it.
So sorry.
All right, go ahead.
That's okay. I think that, part of the reason they do it is to create that confusion, and I think it's effective in that way, although it can get tiresome. I enjoyed this film. I loved the original Blair Witch Project. You and I talked about it before we saw the sequel. I have a pathological terror of the woods. And the original film toyed with that more than anything I had seen and scared me to death. And as you know, I spend a lot of time with horror movies, and it's really uncommon for me to come away from a film and not want to get up in the middle of the night to go to the bathroom. Like, that never happens, and that movie scared me to death. So I was very excited to see the sequel. I like Adam Wingard, the director. He did a movie a couple years ago called The Guest. He did another one called You're Next. And I like the progression of his work. I think he has a good solid sense of what's available to you inside the genre, the horror genre, and I think that he understood what remains very effective about the original, and I think he also understands what people complained about with the original, which is that nothing happens. So if the atmosphere of it can't terrify you in itself, and you're waiting for something. You're just waiting for something. So I think he makes up for that because there's action in this one.
Yes,
but at the same time, I think there are a lot of acknowledgments to what was great about the original.
Oh, even finding that old house, I think, is very similar to one of the original. I think they did a good job with that. Adding drones.
Yeah. Drone cameras.
Yeah. And I think the eyepiece the kind of Bluetooth eyepiece
Mm-hmm.
are interesting updates. And for me, who had won the Best Camper Award for 5 years in a row, this is
I did not win that award, John.
This is a perfect example of chaos camping.
I love that term.
Isn't that great? I just looked at it, I just laughed because as well as I did in camping, and my camping wasn't really because of my skills, it was just because of my personality, because they would vote. But in reality, everything that could go wrong seemed to go wrong in their camping.
Yeah.
And it's so funny to me, the update that I love is that they have all this GPS stuff, and they're still in trouble.
Yeah.
I mean, so even modernizing it, in the end, it comes down to you and nature.
Yeah.
And buddy, nature is going to get it.
I love the way they toyed with time in this movie.
Yes.
You know, to make you aware that there is something supernatural happening, but at the same time, there's something so it does. You lose track of time in the woods. It's so dark and you can't see anything, and there's no civilization, and you're like, have I been here an hour? Have I been here a month?
No,
I don't know.
That's a great point, because at one point they shift from night to day almost immediately, it seems. So there's something going on with a warp here.
Definitely. Well, and there's one character that they have kind of shunned from their group, and then they'll run back into him periodically, and your main four, they all look exactly the same. They're still wearing the same clothes, but they've basically been trapped in the woods, lost in the woods for a day. Every time you see him, his beard is longer, his hair is longer. He's been trapped in the woods for weeks.
Oh, yes.
And they all arrived at the same time. So it's fascinating in that way.
Yeah, we must remind the audience that the brother of the girl,
Heather, right.
who was lost
Yeah.
17 years ago,
Right.
he has gone into the woods unadvisedly.
Right.
He's not listening anyway. He goes into these woods, Maryland woods, I think.
Yes.
And to find her, I love that about horror films. You just want to shout out, do not do that.
Yeah, you do.
We all know what that means. Do not separate.
Right. Yeah. Especially in the woods in the dark. Are you crazy?
Do not go off to the bathroom. I don't know what you're going to do. Hold on to it. Or take somebody with you, but do not do that.
No.
Isn't that funny about the genre?
It is.
As many times as we see it, I love it every time. I go back and say, no, baby, do not do that. Because we know what's going to happen.
Yeah, we do.
Did it make sense to you in the end? I have to confess, I was really struggling to find out what was going on once they reached the house.
Mm-hmm.
And it, how does that strike you? I mean, what do you know?
Well, one of the things I think that works in his favor is that everything the characters think they know, all of it is these rumors and folklore that they've collected.
Okay.
So once they're in there, it's a best guessed kind of a situation. They're like, and what they decide to do is, in case she's here, don't look directly at her, which I love. It's kind of a Medusa thing, right?
Isn't that great?
But
yes.
even that was just pulled from stories that the guy that they didn't like, that he was telling of his research, and he's clearly not very reliable. You know that from the outset. So these are all just best. But it was interesting that because they have cameras, for the longest time you're watching one character look behind her in her camera, which makes for a fascinating point of view visually, but it's also very clever. And again, in a found footage horror film, you're constantly looking for a reason that they still have the cameras
You are
up.
so right. When she's crawling through that tunnel,
Yep.
I'm saying to myself, wait a minute, I think that's behind her head when the camera's in front of her head, and I go, oh, these people are playing with me.
It's true.
But isn't
it's
it
true.
But to me, you make a really good point. To me, it's endlessly fascinating as you try to figure it out.
Yeah.
Because it is all a maze and a mess.
It is. It is. And I think that it's not just sloppy filmmaking. They don't know. And I like that. I like when especially a supernatural film doesn't just lay out the rules for you, because it's one time I read a movie review about the movie Looper, and the writer said, "I'm sorry, that's not how time travel works," and I laughed out loud, like, please do tell.
Right, what are the rules there?
Right, so I appreciate when they don't make it tidy, because, we don't know. So, and in this case, it could be also considered lazy writing. They make that work for them. Like, so maybe this is what they'll do. I don't know, why not?
Well, Hope Madden, the film is Blair Witch.
Mm-hmm.
This is 2 away from the first one, which is in 1999. I think, like, Pulp Fiction, for instance, that while it may not be, any of them may not be as great as Pulp Fiction.
No, I know what you're saying.
But this is a really a game changer. As Blair Witch Project was, still is, and paying attention to your comments, you're so right. All the found footage, all the handheld business, really, these are descendants of that film made for $60,000 that made itself $250 million.
I know.
Holy,
I know.
my gosh! So Hope Madden for Blair Witch, what grade would you award it?
I'm gonna give it a B+.
Wow, great, and I suspect that. And you know that I'm awarding it a C+, because I'm still the English major who wants to hear every word and everything that's going on.